What does your current work-life balance look like?
My normal Monday to Friday is 8:30 to 10 p.m. That's my normal. Now, there's times when my son has basketball practice and 7:30 I'll go into that world, or Knicks are in the playoffs right now, I'll go to a Knicks game. But my normal right now is probably 9 to 9, somewhere in the range of 12 hours a day.
And when was the last time you felt burnt out? How did you overcome that?
I define subjectively burnt out as sustained unhappiness doing the thing. And my definition of sustained is probably 100 days in a row. I've not had that. Here are my moments of change. In my late 20s, early 30s, I had spent working 150 hours a week, building a huge business for my father, and was getting paid nothing. From 22 to 28, 6 years straight, 365 days a year. In my late 20s, I started to feel anxiety that I was in a bad spot because I had no money. And I built a huge business and I had nothing to show for it. I was just getting married at the time. And I was like, oh my God, I'm poor. I was making $50,000 a year. So, and not that 50,000 is poor, but 50,000 when you actually work 150 hours a week is real bad. You know, it's different if you're working 40 hours, at least you're getting the bowling team and the weekends and your kids, right?
Your wage, your hourly income.
Exactly.
Right,
So I was in a real tough spot. That went from like 28 to like 30 to a really interesting time for me and my dad. We had a lot of friction. I was reconciling my feelings. He was reconciling his. And it finally hit an inflection point where I was like, I got to leave this business and start my own thing. And my brother was graduating college. I started this, VaynerMedia. So I would say the last time I really felt burnt out macro was the last years of Wine Library, because I felt like the trade wasn't fair. And I don't blame my dad, actually. It's immigrant business. He's like, you're going to inherit it. It's going to be yours. So it was like all those immigrant, you know. The other time I felt burnt out was with Wine Library TV. The last 50 episodes, I was like, I'm done with this. I've done this. It's 5 days a week, 5 years. I'm done. GaryVee put me on the map in a lot of ways for a lot of people.
That's what I remember.
You know, even now when the guys want to film me, I'm like so used to not being filmed. It feels weird. Whereas for the first year after GaryVee, it felt weird to not be filmed. There's that. So projects feel like burnt out, but I don't feel burnt out. I don't feel like soulless or sad.
It sounds like though you feel burnt out when you've accomplished everything that you've set out for.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I really don't view it as burnt out.
Sure.
I view it as like ready to move on.
Okay.
I think words have gotten weird. Like I think a lot of people weaponize the word anxiety when they're inconvenienced. I think we've created words like imposter syndrome to make the word insecure.
Or ick. People use the word ick.
Yeah.
So I really genuinely do not associate with burnout. I think there's been moments where I was done.
Sure.
To your point.
Yeah.
But I don't like burnout to me seems like I define burnout as emotionally struggling.
Yeah.
I like how you break down what a word actually means. It reminds me of like Jordan Peterson, or it reminds me of like Alex Hormozi. If you know who that is, we had him on the podcast recently. He said that he doesn't like to use words like burnout because he prefers to use words in observable reality.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. You broke down burnout to be like, I consider it as sustained, displeasure with something for 100 days.
I think that's interesting insight. I think words have been weaponized. Words have been...
It's too ambiguous. It's subjective. But if you break it down into something that's observable, then it actually is relatable.
Speaking of words, a popular one lately is quiet quitting.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this is a way for people to support a healthy boundary? Or is it something that people use as an excuse for just
both
not working hard?
Yeah, both. Or just like cheating the system. Like people will cheat the system if they can, if they don't respect or like the system. Like I don't worry about people Vayner that way because I think we like them too much and do the right things. And I know people do, but it's not a sustained issue for us. But I think another company that doesn't give a about their employees have it at scale because what you put in is what you get out.
So do you think it's a problem with the employer in those situations, not the employee?
I do. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
We have 2,000 plus employees here at VaynerX. There are definitely dozens and dozens that are doing all sorts of that I would not be happy about because we no longer work in a 5-day, like you can, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not crippled by it because it's inconceivable that it's at scale. because we're too productive as an organization, and I just know what we do for our employees, which is, we're not Mother Teresa, but we have humanity. I think if corporations had more humanity, they would win.
What's a way that you would recommend they incentivize their employees to work harder?
By reverse engineering them individually. Some employees want more money.
Sure.
Some people want a new title. Some people want more work-life balance. Some people want to work in a different department. We're in constant and I don't like saying but I'm going to say it because I dictate this from the top, more than even my direct reports and their direct reports. And now, as I keep putting more pressure on this, we do a pretty darn good job of being open for business for the other person, because the more we make it awesome, the more they'll stay, the more retention I have, the faster I think we can go. I think business is like sports. I think speed matters.
And how do you do that at scale with so many employees?
Effort. Like, it's just something I give a shit about.
And for people,
it's like you'll find this so interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interest. The reason I'm double clicking is I want to bring value to the audience, and I felt I left it kind of high. But I'll tell you why I left it high and why I'm going to go low now.
Go on.
If you care about something, you will do it. The end. Like, the actual answer to your question is effort.
Sure.
Underneath that, allocating time in my schedule for one-on-ones, using the people that have been here for a decade and deploying them on places I can't get to that I know needs humans. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it takes up my mind time. This may actually, this is really cool. You'll find this interesting because of what you guys do, and I have a sense of how you're paying attention. Both of you know, I've been less GaryVee'd out the last 12 to 18 months in the personal brand game. There's other people that have popped, like, I've been operating.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually me now deciding I'm going back into effort of GaryVee. So I guarantee people will feel me around more and know more of me and feel like GaryVee's everywhere more in 26 than in 24 and 25, because in 24 and 25 I operated VaynerX and VeeFriends. Effort.
Yeah.
What do you think about potential overexposure? Does that ever bother you in terms?
It's not achievable.
You don't think it's possible?
Who's overexposed?
I think it depends. I think if you have a story and you go on 30 podcasts, generally speaking, each performance of, each unique podcast will start to dwindle because the story gets redundant. People have heard it enough times.
You're looking at it from the wrong angle. You're in the game of knowing what's going on right now. To you, it'll become redundant.
Right. But to the guest on the show, it's still new eyeballs.
The overlaps are there. And by the way, here's how it's going to play out. Okay, by the way, back to me. I'm going to be out and about. Okay, GaryVee's showing up on all the same Let me hear. I haven't heard, ironically, some people are like, I haven't heard, he's probably talking about the same. But let me say, some new. Then they go and listen a week later, I'm on something else. They're like, let me listen again. Pretty similar to what he just did with coffee. And then the third time I show up in the results of the new podcast, they're like, I'm not going to listen. I'm not getting overexposed. They've gotten their fulfillment. But every one of these shows has different audiences. Not to mention, and this will resonate for you guys because you had a journey of consuming my content, we also like the greatest hits from our favorite artists. Like Elton John and the Rolling Stones and Billy Joel are still playing the same.
But there is something to be said about people or bands or brands who only make an appearance every now and then, and it's such a big special occasion, like My Chemical Romance, taking 20 years off and then coming back once, and that's like a big hit event.
Why are we so addicted to or? What about and? You're right.
Yeah.
And people don't get overexposed and have consistent awareness and build brand. Listen, I've been one of the most prolific public figures in social media, which is the medium of dominance today. An ungodly amount of people know me. I'm stunned every time I'm outside. A much bigger group does not.